wrote it, you have to keep in mind I was about 30 years old, and I was very ambitious. At that time, I felt like I could eat the whole world in a literary sense, and I really wanted to do that. I thought to myself, well, I want to take an American town, bigger than a town, let's say a small city, and then have the whole thing be haunted. I wanted the spirit of that creature, that entity that manifests itself most commonly as Pennywise the Clown, to have infected this whole town. It comes back every 27 years, and more kids disappear. They're like sacrifices. They're its food. But across the board, the adults, on some level, they all understand what's happening, and it's part of this devil's deal that they've all agreed to.
Help!
When I started to get the idea for the book, I'm from Maine, and I thought to myself, I want to find out what one of these towns has in the closet, and I want to use that. I want to use every historical happening that grows and grows until it becomes a legend. So we came to Bangor, and I started to look around. I think what finally convinced me was people started to tell me stories about the bars that used to be down by the river and the hard men, the loggers who were there, and they started to tell me stories about a segregated club for black servicemen that had been burned down, the Black Spot. Nobody really wanted to talk too much about it. They started to tell me about how a gang of 30s desperados had been shot, basically executed in downtown Bangor, the Brady Gang. And I loved that story. You know, by then I knew pretty much that that's the place that I wanted to be, that this was where I wanted to be, and that the real deal maker was when I found out that there was this whole network of sewers under my city, and a lot of people didn't know where they went anymore. The maps had been lost. They were built in the 30s as part of the Delano Roosevelt's work programs, and they just built these sewers, and then they left them. Some guy said to me, well, you know, in the spring, when the runoff comes from the snow, you can put a canoe in over at Westgate Mall and come out at Mount Hope Cemetery, 5 or 6 miles on the other side of town. And I thought to myself, man, that's probably not true, but it ought to be. And I ought to put my monster's lair in those sewers, and at some point I'll have the kids go down there. So you see, it all kind of worked. I took Bangor, I took the geography of Bangor, I took some of the legends from Bangor, I made up some of my own, and I used that as the framework for my book, which is about make-believe and about legends and about how these things go.
Okay, well, I'm starting to get itchy now, and I'm pretty sure this is not.
Do you use the same bathroom as your mother?
Sometimes, yeah.
Then you probably have crabs.
When I wrote it, I drew on a lot of things from my own childhood. We had a Barron's when I was a kid, and all of us went down there and played around, we paddled around. I think that a lot of adults these days would be white with horror at the idea of people paddling around where the sewers dumped out and where all this overgrown foliage was and people dumped their trash and everything. And my brother David was one of us, and he said one day, well, why don't we build a dam and see if we can flood this place out? And so I put that in the book. I put my experiences with going to Saturday matinees with my kids, Ben's crush on Beverly Marsh, and writing the poem. That's all based on things that happened to me.
Your hair is winter fire, January embers. My heart burns there too.
The magic about writing is the more that you write about those things, the more you remember. I think that we really don't forget anything, that it's just a question of access, and writing is the magic key that opens the door. A lot of what I was doing was trying to articulate the things that made me afraid as a kid. And I took a lot of the things that I loved when I was a kid, and I also took a lot of the things that I observed, not just in my own children, but in the kids that they played with, the kids that I saw on the street, their games, their words. But that's what writers do.
You okay?
I'm fine. What's wrong with you?
None of your business.
There's a kid outside. It looked like someone killed him.
I wanted to create characters in the book who were at an age where they could still believe everything that children believe, and yet not. There's a borderline there. There's a twilight zone between little kids who are 5 and 6, and oh yes, they believe in Santa Claus. Oh yes, they believe in the Tooth Fairy. Yes, they believe in the Easter Bunny. Well, the kids in our story no longer believe in those things, but they still believe that there could be something under the bed when the lights are out. When the lights are on, oh no, I don't believe any of that shit. But when the lights are out, yeah, they're still afraid. They still have that capacity to see on a wide range. For adults, it's like the TV screen. For kids, it's like IMAX, okay? Kids have a wider perspective. They see more, they believe more, they notice more. Probably the same thing is true when people get really old. So I wanted to take those kids and put them in this situation where they were the only people available who could actually battle this creature, because they're the only ones who are still able to believe in monsters. And yet at the same time, they're older than little kids who are totally powerless, so that they're actually able to take some action. But then I wanted to bring these same kids back as grown-ups and see their perspective shrink and get to the point where, oh no, I couldn't possibly believe that. And see what happened.
Why is there no murders and missing kids?
There's not like any time I've ever been at before. They did a study once, and it turns out people die or disappear 6 times the national average.
You read that?
And that's just grown-ups. Kids are worse. Way, way worse.
When I wrote it, I was 30. I was closer to those childhood experiences than I am now. It's dedicated to my children. I had 3 kids at the time when I wrote the book, and they weren't my lab rats, they weren't my specimens, but I observed them, and I knew the things that they were afraid of because my wife and I put them to bed at night. But as a kid, I was extremely imaginative. I used to get out of bed and creep down the hall so that I could listen to Dimension X and Suspense on the radio. And then I would creep back to bed and shiver and shake until I went to sleep. So you've got this strong imagination. A lot of the things that I feared as a kid, I also loved. And it's that push-me-pull, that conflict where the stories actually take place. So I remembered a lot of those things because they were vivid memories for me. I've written books that deal directly with the idea that faith makes it possible to battle the monsters. A lot of times in my stories, the monsters are supernatural or they're make-believe, they're fantasy creations, but we all battle our monsters all the time. In that sense, it is an allegory for these children who are on the verge of their next stage of life. They're children still, but they're to the point where they're going to have to make the jump to adolescence and then to adulthood. And that's always a leap of faith. It doesn't have anything to do with any of the established doctrines. You have to trust your friends. You have to have faith in your friends. You have to cut to base level. You have to believe that good is going to triumph over evil. Kids believe that, okay? And that belief is powerful. One of the things about horror stories, whether it's a vampire, whether it's the living dead, the walking dead, whatever it is, those are outside evils. You don't have to take any of the blame for it, and there's sort of a relief in seeing that. In that sense, Pennywise the Clown, as terrifying as he is, at least you can say he's not John Wayne Gacy, he's not Charles Manson, he's not somebody that we have to understand why they did that. But in a way, Pennywise is a safe stand-in for those people, because when you face a Ted Bundy who killed at least 25 women, who might have killed as many as 75 women, you say to yourself, well, he is Pennywise. He is somebody who has 2 different faces. So the sort of thing that I do, the sort of thing that it does, is a way of trying to deal with those things in a safe environment.
Hey! Oh, hey!
This isn't real enough for you, Billy. I'm not real enough for you.
Holy shit.
It was real enough for Georgie.
While I've written stuff that has to do with God, the afterlife, and religion, and I've tried to always be strong on those subjects, not because I've got a axe to grind, but because I sometimes think in fiction of the make-believe that good doesn't get its fair deserts, that a lot of times that what we see as attractive is evil. And I like to see the balance, between the two. I like to see good and strong, and I think that it projects that side of it. One of the things that I wanted to do in the novel, in all of my novels, is to create characters who are fundamentally decent, by and large, and that way you don't want them to be spam in a cabin. You want them to live and you want them to win, and I think that translates to the film. That's one of the reasons I really like this movie.
I can only remember parts, but I thought I was dead. That's what it felt like. I saw us, all of us together back in the cistern. We were older. Our parents' ages.
What were we all doing there?
I just remember how we felt. How scared we were. I don't think I can ever forget that.
It is one of the few films that gives us a chance as adults to relive these strong emotions that we had as children. That's one of the great attractions. Because the thing about fiction is you take all the reality that you can possibly take, and then you change everything that you want. That's why they call it fiction.